Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and let me just say guys, it feels so good to be back. I missed you guys immensely, and I had the most amazing time in Mexico. One of my friends from college had asked me to be a bridesmaid in her wedding, and she had an amazing, absolutely stunning destination wedding. And when I tell you that I had the time of my life, seeing all my college friends, it was like a reunion of sorts, just the parties every night. The food was amazing. Just a 10 out of 10. And when I tell you that this came at the right time, because I'm not even going to hold you guys, the doll was feeling a bit burned out, okay? But we are back. And baby, when I tell you that I have a lot to say about this first part of the Salt Lake City reunion, I was absolutely floored. I want y'all to stop talking about Mary. She's not there. She chose not to attend, so stop talking about her. It clearly shows that a lot of these ladies are going to be lost come season 3 because Mary was their storyline. I'm looking at you, Heather and Whitney, and Heather, you tried it. The things that came out of your mouth in this first part, I want to jump through this screen and wring your damn neck. I'm going to say this one more time. The shelf life for Salt Lake City is looking like there won't be a season 4. But with all that being said, let's just jump right on into it because we don't have a minute to spare. Before we even see the ladies or Andy appear on our screens, we see this disclaimer stating how the reunion was taped before Jennie's comments came out. I said, well, okay, bravo. Thank you for the disclaimer, but I'm still annoyed that the reunion was filmed way before Jennie was exposed. In all honesty, a big pet peeve of mine is how they'll film the reunions when there's still like 6 or 7 episodes left to go. Had they just waited a few more weeks, then they would have found out about Jennie, and Jennie would have been on the hot seat and then fired. And that's what we all wanted to have seen. But I digress. I never think that the scene with all them getting ready in their trailers is interesting, so we're gonna breeze past that. I thought that everybody's outfits missed the mark. I wasn't feeling anybody's look. Shah looked like Yzma from Emperor's New Groove. I was like, girl, what is this? So we see all the ladies arrive to the stage, and of course, the first thing out of everybody's mouth is, where's Mary? And you have Jennie sorry behind saying, yeah, where's Mary? I said, girl, shut up. So Andy breaks the news that Mary won't be in attendance, and then he goes on to add that he spoke to her a few days beforehand, and she was upset at Whitney calling her a predator. And again, I'm just so confused because you have Shah right there facing federal charges for allegedly scamming the elderly, and y'all chose to go after Mary. Like, does this make sense to y'all? So here goes Whitney, and you guys know I can't stand her. So she's like, I was trying to talk to Mary all season long, but she just shut me down. I'm like, girl, are you dumb? Of course Mary is going to snub you. You were calling her everything but a child of God, calling her a predator, all this stuff, talking about her church, trying to dig up all this information about her. Like, I wouldn't have anything to say to you either. So for you to be so surprised, I just can't believe that she wouldn't talk to me. It's like, Whitney, what planet are you living on? So here comes Heather. And Heather, girl, I just want you to know I'm about to wear you out this entire recap because you tried it several times. Heather goes on to add that she wishes that Mary were here at the reunion too, and how she's gained a deeper respect for Mary. I said, you have a deeper respect for Mary? Well, when did this happen? Because it sure didn't seem that way when you were sitting up there grinning and egging Jennie on and giving her a big old high five when Miss Jennie was out there throwing glasses at Mary. You didn't come to Mary's defense. You didn't make sure she was okay. But you want to say that you have a deep respect and love for her. Got it. Heather's so freaking phony and fake, and she says anything for some screen time. So everybody is shocked at Heather saying that she has this deep love for Mary. And Andy's like, well, why is that? So Heather says, I really just fell in love with her in her confessionals, watching the season back. She really is full of a lot of wisdom, and her assessments on people are spot on. Now, Heather, you were just calling Mary mean all season long, but now her assessments are spot on. So now Heather says that Mary's assessment of Lisa being fake is spot on. I'm like, now, isn't that something? The same woman that you've been dying to be friends with since season 1, now all of a sudden, she's just the worst thing ever. Heather is just so fake. Oh my gosh, like, it's just pathetic. Like, this woman is just so fake. And come season 3, I'll bet you all money that Heather will be sitting up there sucking up to Lisa yet again. So now Heather goes on to say that she's just really sad that Mary's not here for Meredith because Meredith has been her ride or die, and Meredith could use the support. So now Meredith says, look, this show is just not emotionally healthy for Mary. Like, I wish she were here too, but she has to do what she has to do, okay? At the end of the day, Miss Mary Martha Cosby did the right thing by not showing up. She said, shout out to everybody, I have fun.
Oh! Shout out to everybody, I have fun.
I gotta be good.
Y'all will not sit here and attack me for 3 whole parts. I'm not doing it. The way they treated her all 21 episodes in this season is shameful. So now Andy pivots the conversation and he turns to Jen Shah. He's like, Jen, I haven't seen you in a hot minute, but you've got a lot of stuff going on. You are facing 30 years for conspiracy to commit wire fraud and an additional 20 years for money laundering. So Jen is saying how she's devastated, her entire family is devastated by all this, and also how it was sad for her watching this season and seeing what all the ladies were saying about her on the Veil trip. Then she goes on to add that if she were there, she would have flipped the bus over. I was like, Jen, you wouldn't have done a damn thing and you know it. I'm just tired of these women acting like they're just such big fighters. Then Andy wants to know if Jen considered quitting the show because of this. So then she says that she spoke about it with her family, but decided not to because she's innocent. I said, Jen, we all know good and well that you are addicted to the fame and the notoriety. You love the attention, and you need every piece of coin from this Bravo check. So we all knew that you weren't quitting anything. I don't know if it's just me, but Jen has a very cavalier attitude about this entire thing. In my personal opinion, it just seems like she's kind of delusional about how serious this truly is. I don't know if she thinks that she's going to flatter the courts or they're going to be blown away because she's on a reality show, but she just seems a bit too cavalier for me. If this were me, I would be sobbing, shaking, throwing up. Do you hear me? I mean, every time you saw me, I'd be falling out on the floor crying like I am facing 50 years in prison. So here's where things really heat up. Andy reads a viewer question directed towards Heather. And the viewer wants to know, how is Heather able to move on from Jen Shah calling her Shrek and Honey Boo Boo and all these other horrible names about her appearance? Of course, Heather has this really stupid answer, and here's why I'm always saying that Heather must have very low self-esteem and she's very desperate at her big age. Heather's talking about, well, you know, it's just a bad joke. I'm like, it's not a bad joke. That's how Jen feels about you. Like, Jen thinks that you're unattractive. You do know that, right? I can assure you one thing, there is no way in hell that I'm still going to be friends with somebody who is saying disparaging things about my appearance. And Heather sounding just as stupid as she wanted to sound, saying, well, I just know that Jen is deeply sorry for what she said. No, she's not. She's just sorry that viewers called her out about it. That's the only reason why she apologized. And I got secondhand embarrassment when Heather turned to Jen and said, Jen, do you really think I look like them? And then when Jen said, no, absolutely not. I just said that you were Shrek because you were acting like an ogre. I said, now, Jen, if you're going to lie, at least make it believable because, girl, stop. We all know that you meant that. You were not talking about her attitude. You were talking about her physical appearance. And second of all, Heather didn't bother anybody last season. She barely raised her voice. You were always screaming at her first season. So how in the world was she acting poorly towards you? So of course, Jen has to be cowardly and she has to throw Lisa Barlow into the mix. And she's like, Lisa said things about your appearance too. It's not just me. So now Heather says, oh yeah, I know. She turns to Lisa and she's like, Lisa, I know that you sent my friend a text saying that I look like a Lego figurine. Bravo is so petty because when they showed that picture of the Lego figurine, I said, y'all are so wrong for that. I said, y'all did not have to do that. We got the mental image in our heads, but Bravo just always lives to be petty. So here goes Lisa lying. She's like, no, I never said that. I never called you a Lego figurine, okay? I never said that. Never said that. So Heather's like, well, while you're over there lying, I'd rather be called Shrek any day of the week than what you called your friend of 10 years when you had a hot mic moment in the bathroom. So now Heather goes on to say that she always knew that Lisa's true self would come out. So I'm like, okay, Heather, so explain this to me real quick, okay? If you always suspected that Lisa was a bad person, then why have you and your sorry cousin been trying to be this woman's best friend for almost 2 years now? Explain that to me, please, because I'm confused. And also, Heather, if you knew that Lisa was talking about you and your appearance and your body to other people and laughing at you, why were you still so eager to be her friend? Like, again, I'm just confused. Now, y'all know that I don't like anybody on this cast except for Mary and Meredith, but I have to say, despite Lisa being delusional and just an awful person, Heather and Whitney both have a very strange fixation with her. They want to be this woman's friend badly. And even though they got on Lisa several times during this reunion, you can clearly see that they really do want her validation. So Lisa's trying to talk over Heather, and so Andy, with his shady self, he's like, but Heather, why is being called a Lego figurine bad? So now Whitney interjects and she's like, because Lisa is saying that her body is square. So now Heather's like, yeah, she's pretty much fat shaming and body shaming me. So now Lisa's like, no, I actually think that you look great, Heather. Again, Lisa, sometimes silence is golden. If you thought that Heather looked great, you would have never sent that text in the first place. Am I right? Like, let's just be real for a moment. If you think that somebody looks good, you wouldn't be mocking their appearance now, would you? Right? Am I crazy or no? Like, let me know down in the comments. But I generally find that when I think that somebody looks good, I'm like, oh my gosh, they look amazing. I'm not sitting up there making fun of their appearance. So again, Lisa, it's more lies. All you had to say was, you know what, girl, I did say that. That was shady of me, and I'm sorry. Or you could have stood 10 toes down in it and be like, well, you know, you call me X, Y, and Z, so it was fair game. Either one of those, I would have had more respect for you. But to lie and say, well, you know, girl, I think you look good. Like, no, you don't. Because your actions are a clear contradiction. Now we move on to the Meredith and Jen portion, and Meredith wants to make it clear that at the end of the day, she wants to find some resolution and some peace with Jen. She goes on to say that last winter, she was actually dealing with a lot of stuff that we had no idea about. We find out that she couldn't find a place to bury her dad, she was fighting with her sister, and dealing with a nephew who had health issues. So at this point, Meredith is sobbing, and I felt so bad for her because you could just tell that she was just in so much pain. And when she went on to say, like, that's the reason why my anger just seemed so amplified because I was dealing with so much behind the scenes stuff. And I could definitely see why Meredith was so angry because you're dealing with all of this. And then on top of that, you have these women questioning you about if you attended your father's memorial service or not. I think that that would send anybody over. Meredith goes on to say that Jen actually treated her better than Lisa did. And we know that Lisa is so pissed hearing that. She's going on this long diatribe about how I always have to be perfect at all times and I'm set to a different bar. And it's just really funny how everybody here wants to rewrite history. Nobody's holding you up to a different bar or different standard. It's just that you lack self-awareness, you're delusional, and you take no responsibility or accountability for anything. And that's why a lot of these ladies, especially your former best friend, have issues with you. Lisa is the villain and the victim at the same damn time. And you cannot be both. You have to pick a lane and stay there. So if you don't mind, I'm going to be skipping over the part where everybody was arguing about Jennie being Lisa's minion because I didn't care and I was bored. So we are now going to jump to Andy bringing up how Jennie felt about Mary's remarks. So Andy brings up the remarks that Mary made about Jen being a Mexican thug, Jennie and her eyes, and her having yellow tones. So Jennie says that it was extremely hurtful and how since they're both minorities, they should be supporting each other and not being awful to one another. I said, well, isn't that funny that you should say that they should be supporting each other? I said the same woman whose anti-blackness spewed out in every single episode when she was around Mary. Don't you dare fix your lips to say anything about how anybody should be supporting one another. Mary apologized for her comments and she apologized several times to your face. But when you were exposed as the racist clown that you are, you got up on IG Live with your token black friend that you paid a few $100s and you said a whole bunch of nothing. So don't you dare have anything to say about Miss Mary Cosby. And it's so funny how you didn't have this smoke for Miss Heather because when Andy brought up that anime comment that she made at the luncheon, you were like, I love the compliment, like I get it. It's just so funny how you were so forgiving of that. I was also getting really irritated by how Jennie kept coming for Meredith in this scene, especially when Jennie was like, you were laughing when she was imitating my accent. And when Meredith said, girl, no, I wasn't. I actually grimaced and I told her, no characters or voices, please. So now Andy interjects and he brings up how Meredith was kind of silent at Whitney's party when Jennie had brought up Mary's comments. So she's like, well, it wasn't that I was quiet. My whole thing was I was trying to follow Jennie's cue. That's why I was quiet. But in hindsight, if I could do it over again, I would have spoken up. So now Andy continues his line of questioning to Meredith, and he's asking her if she has any regrets for supporting Mary Cosby. So Meredith says, no, I don't. I don't think that I went so hard for her, but I don't have any regrets. Here comes Jennie wanting a moment. She inserts herself in the conversation, and she calls Meredith out for not having her back. So she goes on to say how she would have liked for Meredith to have stuck up for her when Mary walked away from the conversation when they were at the spa in Zion. So Meredith is like, Mary is a grown-ass woman. I am not her keeper. I can't tell her what to do. I don't control her. She can do what she wants to do. If she wanted to walk away because she felt uncomfortable by your questions, that's her right to do so. Meredith said, and furthermore, the reason why I wasn't quick to defend you was because you already started with me. I met you one time a week ago, and you were already making an assessment of my personality and how I handle conflict. And baby, when Meredith was like, and you want to get on Mary's case about getting a used gift when it was brand new, but you're sitting up there giving my husband used golf balls for his birthday. When I tell you I died, I said I'm not surprised. Jennie and Dewey look cheap. I honestly feel like their money is not that long. Like, I'm just not wowed by their lifestyle at all. It feels like she ran out and rented that McLaren because they were going to film. I don't believe that they always had a McLaren in their driveway. I just need Bravo to vet these women accordingly and stop allowing super fans to join these casts. So since everybody wants to talk about Mary, Andy reads a phenomenal question from a viewer named Akila. And I said, Akila, just know that I love you, okay? The question reads, Jenny, when are we going to address your black scent? So of course, Jenny has nothing to say. She's silent. I was like, girl, what? You had all this to say to Meredith, but now it's crickets. So Jenny's lying, saying that she doesn't have a black scent. It's just that she grew up in Long Beach and it shaped who she is. And I noticed that Miss Jen Shah was awfully silent and she seemed kind of uncomfortable when that question got brought up because she knew that Andy would have asked her, well, why do you put a black scent on too? So Andy brings up how hypocritical Jenny is to say that Mary's violent with her words when she's out here throwing glasses. So Jenny's like, I didn't throw a glass at her. I threw it on the floor. Let's be clear. If I wanted to hit Mary, I would have hit her. And I said, had you laid a finger on Mary, you would have been hit with a 2-piece and been laid out on that floor. Let's be clear about that. I can assure you, Mary would have given Jenny the surprise of her life had Jenny touched her. So if that wasn't enough, Heather decides that she is going to twist her mouth to interject and say that deep down inside, she believes that Mary is a racist. For you to even say that is beyond evil. Yes, Mary made ignorant comments. Yes, Mary is no saint. We've already established that. Mary apologized for what she said. Either you forgive her or you don't. But to say that deep down inside you believe that she's racist, absolutely not. You're so damn fake and phony. In one breath, you love Mary. You have deep respect for her, but now you want to say that deep down inside, you believe that she's racist? Heather, you're a sorry individual. So Andy says, well, I spoke to Mary, and she said that black people can't be racist. And Jenny, your dumbass talking about, yes, black people can be racist, anybody can. I said, girl, we already know that you are. You've been exposed. And Jenny hates damn near everybody who isn't white because all those posts on her Facebook page were targeting every single group. And Jenny, the reason why you have such a hard-on for Mary because you can't believe that a black woman didn't care for you, didn't care about you, and was not pressed to be your friend. And you just cannot believe it because in your pea brain, you feel like Mary should be so lucky to even talk to you. Because people who have your sentiments feel that way. How dare a black person not want my friendship? They should be honored if I speak to them. You think so low of Mary, and every time her name gets brought up, you have something very nasty to say. I am so glad that Mary paid you dust. I'm so glad that your sorry, raggedy, pathetic moment in that finale fell flat. I'm so glad that you're fired. And I don't understand why Andy had you in the middle seat at this reunion. You should have been at the end, because you brought absolutely nothing. I stand by it. You are one of the worst additions to any franchise. An absolute disgrace. So now Andy says that he wants to change gears and he wants to know who the ladies feel is the biggest pot stirrer in this group. So pretty much everybody raises their hands for Lisa, and then they add that Whitney is also a pot stirrer as well. And I said, please throw Heather in that mix. It's the three of them keeping up mess at all times. So this pot stirring conversation leads into the whole debacle with Angie, Lisa, and the caterers. We all remember that episode where Lisa was accused of sabotaging her good friend of 20 years casino night event. So Andy's like, look, Lisa, answer the question once and for all. Did you or did you not have your assistant call up the caterers to not show up for Angie's party? So Lisa says no, and I have the screenshots to prove it. So Andy's reading the text messages out loud, and then Andy wants to know, why did Angie say in one of the text messages to not tell Lisa? So Whitney interjects and says, well, I can answer that. The reason why Angie didn't want Lisa to know, because she knew that Lisa would be upset if Lisa found out that Angie was getting the first event of the season. So that was her motive to sabotage. And I wholeheartedly believe that Lisa would do something awful and petty like that because she's very self-centered. And I also think that she didn't really want Angie to get on this show and become a full-time cast member. So that's why she tried to pull the okie doke and ruin Angie's event that went off without a hitch. So, of course, Whitney brings up how Lisa did not want Angie to acknowledge that her and Whitney are cousins. She told Angie not to follow Whitney on Instagram or any social media whatsoever, and how she didn't want Angie to acknowledge Whitney at all. So Lisa's like, no, that's not it. I just told her, don't claim you. And I was like, you do know, dummy, that means the same thing, right? Saying don't acknowledge her or don't claim her, pretty much the same thing. Andy brings up how Heather and Whitney are now good friends with Angie. So he mentions how they were celebrating Angie's 40th birthday in Cabo. And I think it's really interesting that Heather and Whitney want to be super tight with a former friend of Lisa Barlow. I always get the impression with the both of them that they kind of want to steal other people's friends. Like, of all the people to become best friends with, now all of a sudden you get super tight with Angie. It's just interesting to me. Heather responds and says, yes, we had a phenomenal time in Cabo. And Lisa, Angie's husband Chris had us on a yacht that he paid for, unlike you, where you pretend but take pictures for the gram. So Lisa's super insulted, and she's like, what are you saying? I pay for everything that I have. Are you insulting John Barlow right now? Is that what you're doing? So Heather goes on to say, Lisa, at the end of the day, Angie's living the life that you pretend to live.
If you know you're not fab, stop coming out like, bitch, like you that girl. You not fab like that to be doing all of that.
Let me find out that Lisa is putting on for the cameras and she doesn't have what she claims to have. And I wouldn't be surprised because when I first saw Lisa's house, I remember thinking that it looked a little bit too bare for her to be so rich. I just expected a lot more. Like, the house just seems like she called up every realtor in Utah and she was like, look, I'm going to be on TV. I need to find a nice sized home. Can you put us in something by next week? That's what it gives me. Lisa retaliates by bringing up Heather's DUI. Now, Heather, why did you think that it was a good idea to lie and say that you don't have a DUI? I said, baby, are you okay? Because, what does this say? Do y'all see this? This is the article from page 6. Details of Heather Gay's 2012 DUI arrest surface after the SLC reunion. Heather Gay's past legal troubles have come back to haunt her after the SLC co-star Lisa Barlow brought them up at the season 2 reunion. Heather Gay was in fact arrested on July 1st of 2012 for driving under the influence, according to Utah court documents obtained by the U.S. Sun on Monday. The night of the incident, the reality star was pulled over by an officer who asked whether she had been drinking after he smelled alcohol. She allegedly refused to take a breathalyzer test at the scene, but had to submit to one at the police station due to a search warrant. Her blood alcohol concentration came back as 0.06, and she also reportedly tested positive for amphetamines. So Heather, why wouldn't you think, let me just be honest and clear what happened up? But for you to say, no, that's not true, I was like, are you serious right now? For somebody who claims to be such an open book and tells it like it is, it's just so funny how, when it was brought up, she straight up lied about it. So of course, Heather and Lisa keep going at it, and Heather says that she has no desire to be friends with a woman who read a How to Be a Mean Girl magazine in 8th grade. I said, Heather, it's okay. I know deep down inside you want to be accepted by the cool girl, and it eats you alive that Lisa just doesn't like you like that, and she thinks that you're a loser, because if you really weren't pressed about her friendship, you would have never needed to say that in the first place. This is one franchise where the majority of these women have some very low self-esteem, and it's very sad. The last scene was a bunch of nothing, in my opinion. We have Andy asking Lisa, why did she bring up the whole incident with Jen and her former dress designer? And then we see Lisa discussing why she didn't invite Jen to her son's Fresh Wolf event, but she invited Whitney. Now, did y'all notice how Lisa tripped her own self up? Do you guys remember how Lisa said that her kids were in charge of the guest list? Then, here at this reunion, Lisa says that she wanted to invite Whitney to extend an olive branch. I said, Lisa, you really aren't too bright, huh? Like, you really just trip yourself up every single time. Like, Lisa cannot tell the truth. Well, a lot of them can't, but we're talking about Lisa right now. And then we see Jen getting upset with Lisa because Lisa says that she loves Jen even though Jen is super controversial. And of course, Jen is sensitive because she's awaiting a big trial. But y'all, that was the first part of this reunion. I was just really disgusted, to say the least. I don't know if I'm going to continue watching parts 2 and 3. I'm just over it. I don't care for any of these women except for Meredith. Like, I've got nothing else to give. This was an extremely tiring season. I don't like 95% of this cast. They didn't have a whole lot going on that warranted 3 parts. This should have been a cute 2-parter and called a day. But I will say that Mary definitely sent Jesus after the ratings, because 600,000 viewers for a show is not good. And I predict that parts 2 and 3 are going to get even lower. Bravo, if y'all are smart, y'all will come crawling back to Mary and forgive her for skipping out on this reunion and have her rejoin season 3. Because this cast is not strong enough, the storylines aren't strong enough or interesting enough for them to carry on for 3 or 4 or 5 more seasons. This franchise has no longevity, in my opinion. But y'all, that's all I had to say. I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you all for watching. And as always, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all later. Bye.